Mrs. Reba Scharfstein and her husband were sent by the Rebbe on Shlichus to Cincinnati, Ohio in 1954.
This was 10 years after we were in Cincinnati. We felt that we've spent 10 years, we did a fairly good job, maybe we'll be lucky, maybe we could come back to New York, so we'll be closer to the Rebbe. My parents were getting older, and, my husband, he debated, but finally, all right, we'll give it a try. So our first question was, we've been in Cincinnati for 10 years, and different things, are changing. So we're thinking, we'd like to come back to New York. The Rebbe asked why. So we said, we'd be closer to the Rebbe, pay my parents, and that's when the Rebbe spoke, gave us a comparison with the waters of the mikveh, where, the Rebbe gave a comparison, meaning that, why are the waters of the mikveh so purifying? Because they're always connected to the source. And what he was telling us is, he said, as long as you're connected to the source, everything is going to be the way it should be. It doesn't matter how far you go, but as long as you're connected to the source. Then the Rebbe asks us, are we renting or do we have our own home? Well, in those days, you didn't just buy a home that easily. Now you come into a community right away. You buy a home, and then you rented an apartment, and then after a while, you bought a home. So he said, nope, we're renting a home. And the Rebbe looks at us and he says, time we buy a home. And I don't know where my husband got the courage, but he was still pursuing the idea of possibly leaving, Cincinnati. And he says to the Rebbe, but right now we really don't have the means, because we haven't been able to save, because the situation hasn't been such, that was lucrative for us, and with the teaching and with other responsibilities. So the Rebbe said that, you'll find a way. And then he says, and besides, he said, when the Vils Vacation, when you want to sell your home, it'll be worth much, much more. I claim that Rebbe said at least 4 or 5 times more. My husband claims 2 or 3 times more. But right now, it's worth 5 times more. We've been in the same house for 44 years. I'd also like to mention another interesting yechidus I had. It goes back about 40 years. I became interested in the Montessori method. And I was invited to visit a Montessori classroom, not Jewish. And I liked it simply because it had a lovely tone. The children were actively involved in what they were doing, very pleasant. Everyone was learning. And it attracted me, so I started to read about the method. And I realized that there are many things in the method that we could really be an asset to Limudei Kodesh. So that's when I developed this whole program. I was very involved in it. And teachers were asking me about it, and I would always try to to give them an understanding of the advantages and how to use it, properly for Limudei Kodesh. But I was a little bit concerned about some of the perspectives. So I asked the Rebbe, I told him, I said, there are some women who are asking me about Montessori, and in England there is a school thinking of taking, courses there. I said, is this a proper thing, for them to be doing? should I encourage it, or not? And the Rebbe answered me, you have to be very careful about the hashkafa, and you have to be very careful that they don't become involved, in the whole philosophy, so to speak, which kind of shocked me because I never read any of the philosophy and I never got myself involved in that. And whenever I projected my program, after my Yechidus with the Rebbe, I didn't use the word Montessori. I used individualized instruction using Montessori materials and method. But I wanted them to feel, that I'm using Montessori. Montessori is not using me.